welcome back to today's video. Today I'm going to give you guys 10 chess tips to increase your rating on both chess.com, Lichess, and even over the board. Now, quick disclaimer, if you watch this video and understand these tips, chances are you will increase in rating. Now, how much you increase will vastly depend on how well you can apply these fundamentals to the game. Now, I've given these tips to other people and they've made massive jumps. I'm talking like 400 ELO on chess.com to like 2000, 1300, not 2000, sorry, 1200, 1300. So that's probably what I'm going to say as the title of this video. Don't know what I'm going to title it yet, but these tips are good, strong fundamentals. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so tip number one is stop learning openings. I know this is kind of silly and sounds kind of like stupid when you think about it, but chances are you're watching these high-level, top-level players like Magnus, Hikaru, Fabi, Levon, etc. You're watching these players, and a lot of the time the commentators are focusing on the opening, especially Magnus. He tries to play these lines where you get opponents out of opening, but that's at the highest level where everybody sort of understands end game techniques, middle game techniques. So I say stop learning openings in the sense that stop learning like these different Roy Lopez's, like just these different lines with the Roy Lopez where you go like this, or even just something like this. Instead, stop learning these vastly different lines of the openings. Instead, what I would say is focus more on systems. So first thing, what is a system? A system is just something you play into anything. So the most common one is this London system, the accelerated London. Now, I say stop learning openings because it's very easy to get trapped and just focus on all these different lines of the opening, and then all of a sudden your opponent plays something that's not in your prep book and you don't know how to play against it. So with systems, you tend to learn just the fundamental ideas of how the opening works. Now, in the London, you know that if you play the London, or if you want to start playing the London, the main idea of the London is that you want to fight for control of e4, e5. And if white can get control of e4, e5 with the trades, white basically wins. It's a positional game. It can get very long games, but it's very simple, the understanding of it. So I recommend the London for beginners. I think it's a great opening for beginners. I think even at the highest level, Magnus plays it a lot. But I'm a big fan of just, if you can fight for control on the e4, e5 square, you will win your chess games. Okay, tip number two, stop playing chess puzzles. Now, I say stop playing chess puzzles because if you look at chess puzzles on like chess.com, the most famous puzzles on chess.com are the ones where you have these obscure queen, rook sacrifices, piece sacrifices. Now, those feel good to do, right? However, you're not actually reinforcing anything when you do it. Instead, you know it's a puzzle. So what you're looking for these crazy sacrifices because that's kind of what you've been conditioned to do with these puzzles. Now, I don't think the puzzles are necessarily bad. I think they're fun to do. I definitely do puzzles a lot. A lot of my content on my shorts is definitely just puzzles, but they're like parlor tricks, they're not really doing anything. Now, here, take a look at this position. You can pause it, try to figure out the puzzle solution. I'm just going to go through it. I made a short about this, so I'm going to go through it in 3, 2, 1. Pawn to b6, king to a8, rook e1, knight takes e1, pawn to g7, h1, queen, g8, queen check, bishop b8, pawn to a7, knight c6 check, d takes, queen g5, queen takes g5 check. See, sacrifice your own queen in these kind of ways. King to a6, bishop takes, c7, queen d5, c8 check, bishop b8, b7 check, queen b7 check, mate. Now you see what I mean? These queen sacrifices, like, sure, it's a nice puzzle, sure, it probably will come up in games. Definitely you're going to come up with games where you need to sacrifice your queen, but I noticed that especially at the lower level, people try to sacrifice as much pieces as possible because they think they're going to get like in a Gotham Chess video, or they think they're like tall. Yes, it's good to understand when you need to sacrifice pieces, but if you're doing these puzzles and you're only understanding that, okay, I need to look for these incredible sacrifices to win the game, I don't think that's the best way to go about learning chess. I think I know Lee Chess. I'm not sure if chess.com does it. Lee Chess has games that come in actual positions that you can change it to, like between real online people. Like I know sometimes when I'm bored, I'll go on there and I'll do it. I think those are definitely a lot better, but there's are sacrifices still in there, which yeah, like I said, you're gonna have sacrifices come in game. But if that's the only way you're going about solving these puzzles, you're never gonna improve, and that's just a fact. Okay, coming in at number three, I'm gonna have this tip as being study. So what do I mean by study? I mean read chess books, analyze your games. There's sort of this like stigma around chess now that you kind of just can play more than you study, which yes, that's true, but also the way I see it is like, okay, say you're the first day of starting chess, you're gonna fall for something like just the scholar's mate or something, where you basically just have to, sorry, the scholar's mate, where you just want to bring your queen out and just sort of get a checkmate. You're gonna fall for that your first day. But if like you analyze it and you understand, okay, what went wrong here, you're gonna understand that okay, I need to with the I'm just moving the black pieces. Okay, wait, got their queen and their bishop here, so how can I defend against this next time? Okay, I can put my knight here defending it this way, put my knight on h6 attacking it. But if you never spend time analyzing your games and you just sort of just keep on playing something like this where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna chase the bishop away this time, that you're gonna waste two games of something that could have been prevented by just studying a little more and even just analyzing that first game. Now, I don't think you should definitely. I don't think that you should just stop playing entirely. I know, like myself, I don't play as much online chess as I used to. I prefer just playing over the board or just even just studying it because I love the game so much. But it's something where you need to study more. You need to like pick up a book or read it to understand it. The best example I always say is like, okay, when you're taking a test in class, you're not going to just start doing practice problems before learning the subject, if that makes sense. I mean, people can do it. I've definitely done that before where I start just doing practice problems and I learn as I go. I don't think that's the most effective way to learn, though. You kind of have to understand what you're doing. Like, before you do the practice problems, like high school math, derivatives, you're not going to be doing like uh, different derivation techniques or integration techniques like U sub, uh, integration by parts, trig. You're not going to be doing all those if you don't know it. You can understand integration. Okay, I know I have to integrate somewhere, but I don't know what to do. But like, okay, so what? So you need to study and then apply what you learn to the game. People say now you should probably play more. I think anybody who says that doesn't know what they're talking about. Obviously, there's going to be some GMs that disagree with the statement, but I think that it should definitely be like 60-40, 60% study, 40% play, or you can even make the argument 45-55 or 55-45, sorry, 55 study, 45 play. Um, I think that's just far smarter to go about it instead of just stop studying entirely. Anybody who says stop studying entirely doesn't know what they're talking about, and I will die on that hill. Coming in at number four, we're gonna have center control. Now, you guys understand center control, but I notice a lot of the time at the beginner level, people like to try to play these indirect systems like the Sicilian, or even against d4, they'll play something like the modern, or even against e4, they'll play something like the modern. These openings are good, but you kind of have to know how to play them. And the best way to play them is to play classical chess first and then implement these hyper modern systems into your play. Now I know I said systems are good, but I noticed that people try to fight indirectly in the center. Like they play stuff like the Dutch, which is incredible. The Dutch is incredibly strong, but think about it, you're not fighting for the control, you're fighting for it almost indirectly because you're playing on the fact that okay, white can't go e4 now, but that also means like okay, you can't go e5 now. You're gonna have to fight a little bit obscurely to try to counter, or even something like e4, knight to f6, the Al Johans defense. Great opening, but once again, if you don't know how to play it, you're gonna be in a little bit of trouble. It's just something where you have to know what to do when you're playing against it. Um, so that being said, I'm just gonna give you like when you fight for the center control, I think that most beginners learn the Italian defense first because it seems the most natural. I mean, I think of Paul Morphy when I think of the Italian game. I think of like one of the first games he ever played that I know of. where he played this is called the Evans Gambit, and you see like you have this uh normal idea relatively where you basically are fighting for this control, and you basically want to just fight for the center. And you see even at the modern level, sorry, not modern level, at this sort of or OG level of like these crazy games, you see like this is bad. Morphe knew this. Morphe was playing with the white pieces. He knew this later on in his life, but you see he knew how to fight for the control of the center. Like sure, he sacrificed when he shouldn't have, and he played like moves he shouldn't have. But this looks normal if you take away the eval bar. Like obviously you're gonna look at this and you'll be like, okay, well E takes, C takes, and pawn to H6, and black is just significantly better, right? But if you look at this from like just a fundamental perspective, you see he knew, okay, knight out or pawn out, knight out, bishop out, and he played this to try to bait black into taking and then pushing this pawn, saying that okay, your dark squared bishop either has to retreat or it's going to fall back and it's not going to be useful anymore. And that's kind of what happened in this line. And you see, it's just a very nice line to me. I think in the game it went something like this, and then I always forget after this move how it actually went. Um, but you see, he knew how to fight for control of the center. So to me, if you're not going to play a system, and even if you play a system, you should know how to fight for control of the center. That's why I think the line is so great for beginners, because it's sort of teaching you like what to do. And then you play stuff like this, and you get a nice I think it's called, this is like the Steinitz counter gambit, I think, of the London. But it's super nice. You fight for this control of the center. You're going to develop your pieces this way. You even have ideas to long castle if you want to in the London. Learning how to long castle, learning how to fight for control of the center, super crucial to winning your games at chess. Coming in at number 5 is the idea of checks, captures, and attacks. Now, you probably hear this a lot at the beginner level, but what it basically means is that you need to look at what can be happen to you first when you're trying to come up with these tactics. This is most useful in the middle game, and what it basically means is that you should look at what your opponent can check first. For example, in this instance, if you want something like here, okay, what can black do first? Okay, they can check you this way. Is that an actual threat? Not really, because if they check you here, you can just play this move pawn to g3, and black wasted tempo falling back, and now you have a nice healthy pawn structure. Obviously your king side is weakened, but you can always just long castle if you need to, if need be. But that's what you need to look at the beginner level, and even just crossing that ID from like intermediate to advanced, still continue looking for checks, captures, and attacks. Another thing, like just captures, like okay, if I go here and black goes something like here and you go here, okay, what happened? Now white can just lose their knight because black can take this. This is an capture. And then if you do all this and all of a sudden black isn't threatening anything, you're not losing anything, what can you do now? You can look for these attacking ideas. So this ideally is an opening, but it is still an attack. You're putting pressure on this knight, and the idea of this is that you want to bait black into going a6 and b5 because you want to just make black overextend. Now, at the engine level, this is Tori Lopez. At the highest level, people understand that it's good. It's not necessarily just a forced attack, but it's still an attack nonetheless. And that's kind of what you want to do. You need to look at checks, captures, and attacks. Checks and captures, the CC of A. I like to call this Chick-fil-A because it reminds me of, I think that's how Chick-fil-A abbreviates their thing. I could be wrong. There could be an F in there. Actually, there probably is an F. It's probably like CFA, but I call this Chick-fil-A. Look at your checks, look at your captures, and then look at your attacks. Look at what's being threatened first before you try to do something else. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, black could be threatening a piece and you could simply attack them with another move, and that might actually be better. That being said, beginner level, don't worry about these super deep tactics and tactical ideas. Learn it just building up your fundamentals. Then later on, we can talk about, okay, how do I do these different tactics better and stronger? Coming in at number 6, we have game split. Now, what I mean by game split is that your chess games are split into three main categories. You have your opening, middle game, and end game. Now, people like to say that you should only spend 20% of your prep on openings, the other 40% on 40% middle game, 40% end game. I think that's a good idea, but I think especially at the beginner level, if you take my advice about just learning systems, you can definitely get away with only spending, I'd say like 10 to 15% on openings, assuming you play the same opening every single time to actually build your understanding of this. Now, obviously, if you're prepping for over the board tournament, you probably want to have better choices, better just like something to catch your opponent off guard, more cagey setups, more aggressive setups, even. But I think that you should definitely spend a fair chunk of your game on the middle game and an end game. Now, I think that a lot more time should be spent on middle game than end game. In fact, I would say maybe 5% more focus on the middle game than the end game, simply because the end game is most of the time can just be dumbed down at the lowest level to just pure calculation. So if you're able to understand your end games and like you can work your way around them, but you can still calculate relatively fast and well, you can definitely spend more of that time on just middle games, and that will actually be more beneficial to your game. And in fact, that actually leads me into my next tip, which is looking at the best move. So this is tip number 7, by the way. So what is the best move in different positions? Now, I think that beginners a lot of the time they get too caught up in looking at these best moves, and like they want to play like the engine, they want to play like Magnus, they want to play like Hikaru, Levy, they want to play like all these top GMs. But you have to remember that you're not necessarily looking for the best move in these positions. You're looking for the right move, and that actually, when I started playing that, I learned this chess tip. It actually changed the way I play a lot more because I know, like, you look at my play, I'm very much inspired by Alpha Zero, Leela, these sort of insane sacrifices that I love to play. I love to play these aggressive chess, the Fischer inspired, the Tall inspired, the Morphy inspired, even the Capablancas grinding out the end games. But I'm saying this because you don't need to always try to play like the engine. That just comes with time. You're going to learn how to play better moves. Instead, you're going to be looking at the right move in the position. So, what will win you the game that you think, and what is more clear when you're playing? So, the best example I can think of is okay, e4, e5. Computer says that's the best move, best by test. Bobby Fischer famously said that. I said this before, although he played d4 later in his life. But computer's going to say e4, e5 is the best move. Now, this is very simple. This is just opening, but it's still going to say that e5 will be a better position for the black pieces. Symmetry is best in chess. We know this. But instead, you could play something like the Sicilian. Obviously, I told beginners don't play the Sicilian. Just don't. It's going to save yourself a lot of headaches at the beginner level. Play something like e5 or even the Caro. Just play a system. I think the Caro is very nice to play at the beginner level. I hate the Caro, but it's good for beginners. That's not the Caro. This is the Caro. Let me just show this is the Caragon. But I think that you're gonna have to understand that computers don't always know how to play chess, if that makes sense. Computers play chess very coldly, very cold, calculating ways. They don't have the emotions that humans do. So instead, you're gonna have oversights that just comes with the game. You know that. So instead, you're gonna have to look at, okay, what's the best move in this position? And even just if we go down this line, there's knight to f3 lines, there's knight to c3 lines, there's d4 lines, Smith Mora in the Sicilian with the white pieces. This is just stuff that you have to learn and you will get over time, and you're going to play what you're comfortable with. Like, for example, somebody who loves tactical games, who isn't like a grandmaster or like above 2200 rating, they're going to play something like Smith Mora. They love these tactical things, but if they're not a tactical player, they're going to play something more solid. They're going to play something like just knight to f3, because it's going to lead to something like the Najdorf. And even with the Najdorf, you go to here, here, and sorry, not there, here, here. And if white does something like bishop to e3, which is the best move, and black does something like pawn to e5. When black plays pawn to e5, computer says the best move is knight to b3. Now, this makes sense, knight to b3. Humans play this, it's not something new. But if you look at this at the beginner level, this is looks very dumb, kind of, because you're putting two knights here. You might not understand the full idea. Instead, this seems much more natural, sending the knight back to f3, but computer says, okay, the best move is knight to b3. Now, if you put it on f3, it seems more natural as beginners. That's something where it can be the right move, not necessarily the best move, but it can be the right move for you and how you play chess. So coming in at number 8, we have this idea of king safety. Now, king safety is very simple. You castle, your king is safe now. Now, just to show you how this will go, you just go basic Ruy Lopez, and you're just going to play something like knight to f6 and castles. Now your white king is safe. You get your rook out, and you can fight for the center much easily. So this is king safety. Now, I'm a big fan of king mobility as opposed to just pure king safety. So what this means is, okay, now your white king can only go to h1. So how can I get this king more mobile? Okay, let's say black goes, I don't know, let's just say bishop to e7. Now I just place pawn to h3. Now, engine's not going to like this. In fact, it's really not going to like this. But this is just something I like. I like having king mobility. Now, don't play these, like, obviously, if you're going to get back rank checkmated, push this pawn here. But a lot of the times at the highest level, you see that these top GMs, they play these moves h3, a3, a6, h6, because they want to prevent the black knight from coming, and they understand these ideas of king mobility. Only play it if you can get back rank checkmate at the beginner level. I think that king safety just fundamentally is crucial for beginners. Like, always castle your king. The only times I'd say don't castle your king is if you actually know what you're doing in the position. But chances are just getting your king to safety will be the best move 9 times out of 10. Because you want your king out of the board. You want to get your rook in, you want your rooks connected, you want to control these files that you need. So you're going to have to get your queen in, bishop in, knight in, and just short castle. Long castle, I would say generally avoid as a beginner, simply because it can get super aggressive, because chances are when you opposite side castle, for example, if we just play something like, I don't know, let's just play this, just play this. This is just random moves. These aren't good moves, but this is just what you want to do. There's something like this, and this is long castling. When you long castle, this is basically saying that, okay, you're not going to fight. You're not going to fight this for a draw. You want a win. You're going to go for a win. Upside castling, that's basically what you're saying to your opponent. You're saying, okay, I don't care what the game says, we're playing for a win. We're going to create these imbalanced structures to launch a kingside attack and a queenside attack. Now, I believe if you put on an eval bar to this, white will have significantly better play, simply because this black knight is not going anywhere. It will have to fall back to b8, which will lose it. And if the knight falls back, you're going to lose your queen. So you kind of see this, you have to just understand that you need your king safe, which is just crucial to beginners, because I see so many beginners just not even bother castling, or they just try to upside castling because they think, oh, I have 2 extra kings. They see these top GMs talking about king mobility, and they think, okay, 2 extra squares. Yeah, it's 2 extra squares, but it's just, you don't know when to long castle. 9 times out of 10, also, if you long castle without fully understanding the position, you're gonna be worse off. You're gonna lose a large chunk of your advantage simply because your attack isn't here. Like, sure, you can argue black's attack is here, but I'll also argue, what attack? Black doesn't have an attack. White has everything ready, just barrel down and doing stuff, minus the rooks. The rooks aren't in yet, but you see they're coming in and they will win. Coming in at number 9, we're gonna have just simple chess tip, which is just develop as a chess player and develop your chess pieces. So what does this mean? It's very simple. So I've used the Spanish a lot, so let's just continue with this. Here, e4, e5. how can you as a chess player develop this? You basically say, okay, knight to f3, knight to c6. You're developing, remember, knights before bishops. That's what they teach you as a beginner. Now, what you can do is you can either play knight to c3 and get 3 knights opening, which will transpose into probably a 4 knights game. You can play different things. You can go bishop here or bishop to b5, the Spanish or the Italian, which is what I played here. And even here you have a bunch of different lines. You can play something like d4, the Scotch. I'm not a big fan of the Scotch. I know Gotham Chess Levy loves the Scotch. I think it just looks pretty ugly, in my opinion. This isn't an opening, by the way. This is just don't do this. But you see, I say don't do this because this isn't developing. You're moving a piece. You want to develop your bishop, then black needs to develop another piece. So f6 here, and you see each piece is developing in a way where it will have strong advantages later on in the game. It's kind of how you develop in chess. Remember, knights before bishops. Chances are if you're going to put a bishop out and it can be attacked somewhere, it's not a good move. Here is an exception. This is just known theory. It's good because here you're basically baiting. You want to bait, you want to bait black out because you want this pawn out here. You want to bait this pawn, and you're basically saying, okay, now black sort of has to shore a castle, and sure they have a queenside attack, but all your pieces are going to be out. You're going to be playing like these anti-marshals, even these marshals, and we playing just some Morphy. You're going to grind out these positions. That's how you play these developing positions. You need to know that, okay, knights before bishops, a bishop can come out after one knight can come out. That's just known. You need to know that, okay, your pieces on the king side are probably the first ones you want to get out. If you're doing like these sort of obscure openings like the Vienna, it's good. The Vienna is good. I mean, you can get into different things like this, which is just terrible for black. But if you're doing this, chances are you're going to need to develop quickly, and you need to have some trick up your sleeve. Okay, coming in at number 10, greatest tip of them all, just have fun with the game. Chances are a lot of you guys aren't going to be grandmasters, super grandmasters. That's just realistic fact. I mean, you could easily get like a norm if you want to, if you have the time and money. And you can even get GM if you have dedicate like a bunch of times to it. There are outliers, like people like to say Gotham Chess will never be a GM. I think his career is far too successful right now for him to have the time to maybe focus on professional chess. So I think his trade-off of just being content creator is definitely far more worth it than being a GM. But anyways, just have fun with playing the game. It's a board game at the end of the day. It's one of the best board games in my opinion. I think the greatest board game. But a lot of the time people like they lose their minds over just playing this game. And I'm not talking about like the Fishers, the Morphys. I'm saying just like play stuff you enjoy. If you're not enjoying the game, just take a break. Like there's no consequence to it. I think a lot of people, especially they want to reach like 1,000 elo so badly, and they just get frustrated when they lose a game. You're gonna lose games. Like this famous phrase "in go" is like you have to lose your first 1,000 to win your first one, and I think that's just super like poetic to anything you do. You need to understand like you're not gonna win every single game, but you should have to try your best. Not saying you shouldn't just okay, I lost it, whatever. Analyze why you lost. Just like do that, but just have fun with the game. It's a board game at the end of the day. Chances are it's super hard to make a career off this. Only I don't think of a handful of people who've done it, and you have like Fisher, you have Gotham Chess, you have Hikaru, you have Kasparov, you have I don't know if I said Magnus, you have Magnus, you have did I say Hikaru or something like that. There's maybe only 10 chess players I could think of that had a successful career in chess, meaning like they're able to make like a full living on it and didn't receive like some sort of funding, I guess. Like a lot of the Soviet chess players were paid professionally to play chess. Then you have like Mark Taimanov, who just, anyways, that's a different story. You can read into it if you want. Long story short, he lost to Fischer and was basically blackballed by the USSR and lost everything. But just play what you enjoy. If you don't enjoy the game anymore, just take a break, come back, see if you still enjoy it. And if you don't have to play it. Nobody's forcing you to play it anymore. Instead, just play openings you enjoy. Like I say, play systems. I think that's the fastest way to rank up in chess. But if you don't enjoy the London, I know I don't. Okay, play another thing you like. Play, I don't know, if you like the Roy Lopez, play the Roy Lopez. These chess principles are there just to help you out. They're sort of fastish ways to increase your elo. But if you don't enjoy these chess tips, you don't have to listen to them. That's the good thing about not playing chess professionally. You can be you allowed to be naive in playing it. Just like enjoy the game, enjoy what comes with it, and enjoy the process. It's a super fun game once you start to get good at it, and even the process of getting good at it, it's just super fun. You start to notice stuff you didn't notice before. You actually feel yourself getting smarter. You can feel your memory increasing, and yeah, that's basically the end of the video. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see in the future.